When is the last time you listened to a podcast about web development, web design, and small business and didn't fall asleep? Yes, we cover web development, web design, and small business, but like actual human beings with personalities. If you're a beginner, we're not going to talk over your head. It's more like asking your buddy for help. We have guests, we have fun, and let me tell you, these two can get off on a tangent. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to HTML All the Things Podcast. This is Matt Lawrence and Mike Curran.
That's right, everybody. We are back. This is the HTML All Things Podcast. This episode is, a kind of a recurring one at this point. We're going to be going over the Stack Overflow Developer Survey 2025. We're going to be chatting about what the heck is going on, what people have voted on. Do they like Python? Do they hate Python? What web frameworks and technologies people are using? What markup languages people are using? We're also going to be talking about people that, like, are you new to coding and are they learning? Like, do we have an intake, an uptick of junior devs or aspiring junior devs, or do we not? And then there's going to be a whole bunch of other things. AI, of course, is going to weasel its way in there as well, as it does. But remember that we are powered by CodeRabbit. You can go ahead and get a 14-day free trial, CodeRabbit.ai. Go check that out. Or if you want to let them know that we sent you, there will be a special link. It is not an affiliate link. It just lets them know that we sent you in our show description and in our show notes. Remember, you can sign up, no credit card required for that free trial. If you have a GitHub or GitLab account, it's just a very quick process to get going. Go ahead and get some AI code reviews, speaking of AI. And remember that we also have a Scrimba affiliate link. If you want to save up to 20%, go and learn with their interactive media player code editor through all kinds of courses from full stack development. Maybe you just want to learn about CSS variables. Maybe you just want to learn about a little something in JavaScript. Go and check it out. Multiple different courses, multiple different instructors even. So you can learn via different people. If you jive with one person, jive with another, whichever, different teaching styles. Please go check that out. So if all this sounds interesting to you and you want to support the show, you can go check us out on that Patreon, leave a review, a rating on your podcast app. Join us in our Discord server. Share this with your friends. I wanted to go fast this time, and I did. And I want to also say one small thing is that I have a key light now. Funny enough, I tried to set this up earlier, and I have a proper, this is a proper key light, but I have a proper key light that's adjustable colors and everything else. And I just didn't measure it at all, and it doesn't fit.
Pretty good.
But thankfully, I had the awareness to say, you know what, maybe I'll need a key light on the go. And so I bought this also really small key light that just sits on top of a monitor, and that's what I'm using right now. And it's quite bright, and it works, so can't complain.
You look great. You look great, Matt. I think we're at the first time seeing you in kind of HD. Usually
kind of HD, yeah.
Yeah, usually it's in about 680p, I would say 320p, something like that. Dark background, dark set. Now we can see your face. You look glorious. Love it.
I have the mullet in progress.
You got the flow going, yeah.
I've also experimenting with with different beard length. Let me tell you something. Got a lot of hair going on my head. Got a lot of hair going on my face. It is so bad that I can't wear sports sunglasses in the heat because the heat is being held in on top of my head. I basically have a mask on the bottom of my face. So the heat just builds up, and I wear a hat because this hair is crazy. If I just swoop it down, it just goes over my eye. So I can't just not wear a hat outside. And so I'll put on sports glasses if I'm golfing or whatever, and they fog up immediately because I feel like the only exhaust for the heat is the front of my face. So this was probably a bad time. Well, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say it's a bad time to experiment with hair length, but also I started in the winter. So it takes a while. What are you going to do?
Pretty good. Should we just get right into the episode, Matt? What do you think?
We can if you'd like. Or I can give you some tragic news.
Tragic news? Yes, I would like some tragic news.
Some tragic / slightly comedic news. Well, it's not comedic, but this is probably going to be take years and years and years, and the person will likely be retired. But I need to get this shaped, and I'm very picky about what barber shops I go to.
Oh God! Okay.
And I was watching TikTok, and apparently the building that he is in was just permitted to be destroyed and then replaced with condos. Now, this is likely a years long process the gentleman I get my haircut at is like an older fellow, so he's probably going to be retired and stuff like that. So that's why it's more comedic, less tragic, because he's probably going to be done anyway, kind of thing. Completed his career, but it's sad. That's sad state of affairs. And what's really bad is hopefully it does not move quickly, because then there's a bit of a tragedy for me in there. Much less tragic than someone losing their job, but a little bit of tragic for me is that I won't be able to get my hair shaped. So I'm gonna have to go to a stranger to get my hair shaped into what I want for the first time. Not good, because I've never had longer hair.
Oh,
so
God.
this is gonna be. I might walk out with like frosted tips. Like this is what I'm terribly afraid I'm gonna walk out with like frosted tips or something crazy accidentally. Like it's gonna be a hair accident.
So I don't think it'll be that bad, and I'll say why. If you just take a picture of the person that you're trying to emulate, or like some sort of hairstyle that you're trying to emulate, and you give them that picture, whoever it is, however ridiculous the person is, they usually can do that pretty well. That's what I've noticed. If you don't have a picture and you're just trying to describe it, we suck at describing things that we don't understand.
Right.
They might screw it up. So I would recommend finding the exact cut that you want and showing them that. And then when they do it right, take a 360 picture of your head so you can keep that, and then tell them, like, show whatever barber, and hopefully they can match it, because they're fairly good at that.
I did do that, like for my other hairdo, like because I got my hair like really thinned out for the summer a couple years ago, and I did do like the whole 360 thing. I mean, I could tell you who the picture would be of, and it's absolutely, completely, and utterly ridiculous, and it's meant to be ridiculous.
Okay, who is it?
Well, I'll give you a slight bit of backstory, because this is a development podcast. This isn't Matt's getting his haircut podcast. So I got somebody calling me, apparently. Someone calling me on Do Not Disturb.
Pretty good.
Anyway, unless I bump that. But anyway, so what's happening is my girlfriend said that I would not be ridiculous enough to get a full mullet. And we started watching Stargate SG-1, starring Richard Dean Anderson. And I was like, well, Richard Dean Anderson started his career mostly, or at least kicked it off, whatever, got popular on MacGyver. And I was like, he had a huge mullet in MacGyver. I was like, I could do that. And she's like, that's like ridiculous. Don't do that. And I was like, don't do it, eh?
You're doing it.
And there it is.
Okay. Well, at least you have a good picture. There's a lot of examples of that one.
I'll have a studio and video of a studio photo from what, 80s, 90s. And then I'll have video.
If they screw that up, then you have found literally the world's worst barber. Like,
I'll just give them the timestamp. Season 2, episode 7.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's go. Okay. I think we can get into what we're going to be talking about today, which is the
ridiculous intro.
Stack Overflow Developer Survey 2025 edition. I think last year we did do an episode on this, the 2024 survey. This year, there was some other new things that came out of it, which is super cool. That's what I want to talk about, kind of other things that we solidified last year. I do apologize that, like, for the people that hate AI, there's going to be a chunk of section about AI, but I think it is really, really relevant. And I highly recommend you stay to that section, because it applies to people that are hesitant about AI, right? Like, there's a lot of information there about how it's transitioned from last year to this year. There's some, downtrends and uptrends that are really interesting to talk about. But we're going to start without AI for the first little bit here. And we're going to talk firstly about the first thing that I saw was nearly 1/3 of developers are still working remotely this year. Okay. And that's fully remote. That should be clear there. So if we're talking about where we're at as an industry, I think a lot of people are starting to talk about, oh, we're getting return to office. We're getting hybrid, et cetera, and it seems like there's still a very large chunk of developers that are taking the survey. I should be clear that whoever is taking the survey might be a little bit biased. They might be a little bit more techie. They might be a little bit more in the industry. Like, they're not the people that just go to work and come back usually and not care about the industry. It's a little bit of a biased survey. That's usually how these surveys go. But regardless, it is a pretty big survey. There's a lot of people that take it, and it's one of the probably highest taken surveys in our industry. So it's still pretty relevant. So 32% is pretty high. The thing that surprised me, I think, even more is that if you combine the hybrid options, there's 2 hybrid options. So some remote and some in person, meaning like which way it leans. depending on like, is it 3 days remote or is it 3 days in person, essentially. If you combine all of those, then we're talking almost 60%, like relatively close to 60% of developers are, or actually like hitting 60%, actually, like around, right around 60%. Wait, no, 70%. Yeah, almost 70% of developers are either remote or hybrid to some degree, which is pretty crazy, I would say. I actually did not expect that. I'm wondering what you think, Matt. Like, did you think that like 70% of developers have some sort of hybrid / remote work schedule?
Well, it's kind of interesting you mentioned this. Like, I didn't think in the context of developers specifically, but I've been chatting with about like remote slash hybrid slash whatever with a couple of friends, and I know that one friend who's not a developer. Well, actually, it's his girlfriend. Like, she was full remote with optional in office. Ended up having to get a new job because I think the company closed or something. I don't know all the details there, but she went to go get another job, and when she was looking, it was all hybrid stuff. And she's an office worker. I'm not going to like, say what's going on there, but she's an office worker there, always on the computer kind of thing. So it's like, you could be remote, but it was like mandatory. I think it's like 2 days in office is mandatory and then 3 days like hybrid. And then I started like after that, because this was like a couple years ago, I started seeing like kind of the sentiment of like, hey, all these people want to come back to the office. I started hearing from people that the cities were like, there's like some politics involved where it's like, hey, you have all these like huge open offices and they're like vacant. We're gonna have to charge you like a vacancy tax. So of course the company's like, well, I'm not gonna charge a vacancy tax. So we're gonna bring everybody back. I know that some people working at a bank, like a large bank here in Canada, they were called, apparently like several of the large banks were just called back in,
Mhm.
to the point where like some people who had moved away from the city, which is Toronto, which is no secret, they have huge skyscrapers. You can see pictures of them. There's a bunch of big banks there that have a bunch of big, huge towers. So you have to work in those towers, is my point. And so there's many people that moved away from Toronto because it's, congested, or you're looking for a cheaper house or whatever. I would assume some of those people are going to start having to move back to the city, which is potentially like what the goal is, right? It's like, oh, great, come back into the city, start pouring money back into our city. Like, let's get, the city going. And I do hear that. I do hear that a bunch. So the reason why I bring all this up is because I just kind of figured that, and I still kind of figured, to be honest, because this like Stack Overflow survey is just like a little slice. I kind of figured that we are on the way to go back to the office. However, I will also say that there has been for a long time and still remains to be, there's like modern businesses, like, so companies that were founded recently, like let's say within the last 10 years, and especially within the last 5 years, and especially if they didn't have like a bunch of money just to go, or like a profitable model right away, and they're like actually a startup, like kind of a traditional startup, raising funding and all that stuff. Those companies, likely, if especially if they were really small when they started, are gonna see the rent slash leasing prices of commercial properties and go, we don't want to do that. That's a huge barrier to entry for us. And so they won't have a physical location at all. And then and then their talent pool at that point, depending on what it is they're doing, generally is the world. Like, unless there's something that requires, people to be in America or be in Canada or be in Europe or whatever, like they're able to hire, like the project manager could be from, Japan. Meanwhile, like the worker, like the 2 or 3 people under that project manager could be, one could be from America, one could be from Venezuela, the other one could be from Canada. Like, it doesn't really matter, short of like labor laws. And so that subset still exists. And I feel like development is definitely one of those fields that falls into that case, but it has the spread, which is why I mention it, because there are going to be developers at banks. There are going to be developers at large companies that have huge skyscrapers that are not banks as well, right? That are potentially getting some politics stuff happening to them. Now, again, all that stuff, I want to be clear, is rumor. Like, I don't know if there's vacancy tax being threatened. That's what I hear from people. That's what I see online. Have I confirmed it and talked to mayors and stuff? No. But if that's the case, then like developers are all over the place, is my point.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get that spread of like large companies, little companies, hybrid companies, everything.
Yeah. I think another interesting stat that I actually saw in this survey when I was perusing it is that out of the people that answered, over 50% of them worked at companies 500 and less employees. So smallish companies, like the large companies, but not huge. And then and then the other, 49% or whatever worked in companies that were larger. So I think you have some merit there for what you're saying is like smaller companies are probably, for developers specifically, are probably going to be way more lenient on not having a return to office approach. And so that might bias this whole entire survey as well. I don't know how many developers work. Like, I don't know what the break point is on, like, is there more developers working for massive companies, or is there more developers working for smaller companies? All I know is from this survey, there seems to be kind of a almost 50-50 split, with it leaning towards developers working for a little bit smaller companies, which should, again, probably have some effect on this remote/hybrid approach to what they choose. So it's interesting. I think next year I would suspect it to pull back a little bit. I would suspect the remote to go down. I would suspect the hybrid to go down as well, and there'd be more like in person.
I think the hybrids are on their way. Like the hybrid schedule, like, I mean, just thinking in general, again, I don't have a hiring manager that I talk to, but just thinking in general, if I want to incentivize people to come to my company, okay, put them on hybrid for a bit. Okay, now you're in office. And like once they get established, right? Now you're in office, you got to come back to the office every single day. And you've they have a desk, they know how to get there, they know how to commute. And so then it's like, oh my God, do I have to quit my job now if I want to keep hybrid? And so now you have leverage over them. Like, you got to remember, this is the world of business.
Yep.
Right? Like, a lot of people are like, oh, like, why not for worker happiness? It's not about worker happiness. It's about driving value for shareholders. Especially if it's a publicly offered company or a privately owned company with multiple investors, of course, or even, I guess, the one investor if it's one owner. But even then, it's about those profits. And so if they think they're going to get more profits, if they think it's beneficial in some way to bring the people in, they're going to do it. Worker happiness is one metric of many. And I feel like worker happiness is the metric that comes up the most when it comes to like remote, hybrid, or whatever. And like, as a worker, like, I'm sounding like I'm pro company. Like, I would prefer for us to be able to work remote. Like, it's just kind of silly. Like, I know people that have to go or see online rather, that people have to go into an office. Like, they've moved away from their home office. Like, I'll just make this up. So like, let's say it's like their home office is in Seattle, and then they move to like Florida, and that company that they work at is big enough where they have a Florida office as well. So they'll be like, all right, man, like, you live in Florida, so what you have to do is you're still on the same team, and your team is still based in Seattle. But what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to commute to the Florida office, work there, and work remotely with your colleagues.
I've seen that before too. So it is happening, but like, I don't see it happening en masse, or at least the survey doesn't show it happening en masse. I should be clear
Right,
there.
right.
At least for this year, right? For the past year, for 2025. The other thing that I didn't take into account was actually, we'll move on from this from this one shortly, but there's another section here where it's your choice, which is 12.6%. So realistically, the only percentage of people working in person in this, like fully in person, in this survey is 17.9%. That seems like a very small number. Like, that just, I would have assumed it'd be closer to like 40 to 50. So that's why this was an interesting one to me. It's like, it seems that if you're a developer and you took the survey, it's a very high chance that you're at least to some degree able to work from home by choice, by force, by whatever. But like, yeah, that's what it is. So that's still good for our industry. If you're a remote worker, like, a remote work has a huge benefit. There's some downfalls of it. No doubt about that. We have a whole episode on it. Maybe we'll link it in the show notes. But like, the whole point is, it seems that we're still pretty good for remote workers, which is cool. To move on to the next one here, another one that kind of piqued my interest because it's something that I'm currently going through right now, is Python adoption grew pretty significantly in 2025, right? So Python saw 7 percentage points increase from 2024 to 2025, which is fairly big for a survey like this, because considering that it's a yearly survey, this isn't like a snapshot of the last decade. This is literally year over year. And Python is not a new language by any means. It didn't have really anything come out internally that made it like significantly more interesting. What happened was, from what I'm seeing, is that with the development, or with the popularity of AI, Python has become the framework of choice, or the language of choice, for doing a bunch of different AI workflows, whether it be creating an endpoint with AI, an entire server that references different AI models or does agentic frameworks with LangChain or Llama Index, whatever, that they're frameworks for like creating AI workflows essentially. So a lot of those are like first party Python frameworks. Now they have JavaScript components to them. Like you can do JavaScript with a lot of AI. Like anytime you're interfacing with an AI endpoint, like an LLM, like an, chat, like not chat GPT, but a GPT 3.5 or a 4 or whatever through the OpenAI API, you could do that pretty much with any language. That's just like an API endpoint. It doesn't really matter what language you're doing it in. But a lot of these frameworks are starting to be start pushing AI start pushing Python because if you want to get into the like slightly more complex machine learning aspect of it, like if you want to fine tune an AI model, a lot of the libraries that AI gives you, PyTorch and a bunch of others, are Python based. And so like if you're thinking about creating like a agentic framework, yes, you can go JavaScript, but if you need to do a little bit more than just interfacing with the AI, if you need to fine tune it, if you need to change it in some way, Python is the best bet for that, at least right now. And that's where I think the growth is coming from. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm seeing from the industry. And that's where I'm going through myself right now on the projects that I'm working on, is I'm trying to decide like, hey, my team is JavaScript based, right? Like most of my team knows JavaScript very well, TypeScript to be exact. But we're starting to go into the AI workflows. Do we stick with JavaScript just so we can do it faster, or do we go straight to Python because that seems to be the default for a lot of this stuff, so that we can have access to a little bit more fine tuning and a little bit more stuff down the line if we need it? It's interesting.
Well, would that be something that you could transition to partially?
That's exactly kind of the thought process that I'm trying to have, is I think it could easily be just like, oh, if we need to fine tune it, that could just be a module that's written in Python and then connected to our JavaScript stuff. So I'm leaning towards JavaScript. I should be clear there too, because of exactly what you said, Matt, because I think if we need to get there, and we don't have any plans to fine tune, I should be clear there too. If we need to get there, we could just reach for that when we need to. Maybe we can hire someone that's good at Python at that time to do that. So I think for the sake of our throughput, like be able to like actually create these features faster, I think we're going to stick with JavaScript. But it's interesting that has not come up for me. Like this problem has not come up for me for years and years and years, where I was like questioning what language to use for a specific feature, because most of the time TypeScript can do everything that we needed to do. We're not doing any sort of like stupidly high performance iterations on things, right? Like where we need to reach for Rust for a lot of stuff, or like for any other low level language. A lot of the stuff we're doing is general purpose web development stuff, which obviously TypeScript is fine for. There's better languages for different things, but like I don't really care about 0.0001 second improvements. I care about being able to maintain my code base and make sure that it can, be built by the people that know how to build it, which is the developers that we have in house. So like there's never really been that moment. Now that moment is coming, and I think a lot of people are going through that.
Well, I mean, the trend is good too. Like it says here, after more than a decade of steady growth, Python's adoption has accelerated significantly. And then that's what we're talking about with that 7-point jump. And so with that, like just that phrase alone, if somebody is on the fence in terms of learning a skill of JavaScript or Python, they may jump to Python at this point. And so that might even be on recruiters' minds. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that JavaScript is falling like crazy and, has 2% usage or something ridiculous. Like that's outrageous. It's just, if somebody is looking at the numbers and they're at the learning phase, they're like an aspiring junior dev, and they're like, what would I get into? Like, this is growing like super fast. That's a great statement for them, right? They may say, you know what? And then that's a bit of talent that you wouldn't be able to hire unless you're doing Python. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of great talent in JavaScript as well. And this is just the beginning, but it's still something to consider, especially if we start leveraging AI a lot, or using AI a lot, or not coding alongside AI, as in like we're the consumer of like using ChatGPT, but in terms of, hey, I'm going to have AI in my program. I mean, maybe the most cutting edge AI developers, and I don't know this, but if maybe the best ones are Python people, and then that's a question on recruiters' minds, right? And then at that point, it's like, well, hey, this Python developer can also do a bunch of the stuff that our website can do. Why do I have effectively a redundant person, someone who's doing something in JavaScript and then also doing, another person that's doing the Python? So like, right, there's a question of like, do we lay off the JavaScript dev to take one Python dev on?
Yeah, exactly. I think that kind of hits the nail right on the head, is like, that's the conversations that hiring managers are having right now. That's literally the conversation. And I think it's really important to understand that. Now, to be clear, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, SQL, those are the top three still.
Of course.
They were the top three last year. They're the top three this year at a pretty significant margin. JavaScript is at 66%, where compared to Python is at 57.9%. So there's still a pretty big leap it would need to have to overtake something like JavaScript. That might never happen even, because JavaScript's popularity and how it goes. But it is a significant change over the last year, and there is some value to knowing that change. Like like Matt was saying, if you take that at face value, that means that there's probably more opportunities to be had in Python right now than there were last year.
Like definitely check your your job listings that you'd be interested in. But if you're a person that's like on the crossroads of what language do I learn, also we have to consider something as well. Is we're still very much in the era of people having websites. And I mean that's good for us because we run a web dev agency, Mike. But I mean, I was like listening to a gaming podcast, and the person said like, hey, like, I just started a website, like a gaming news website. And he was kind of like not poo-pooing the idea, but he knew that people were going to be like, hey, like, you're already a content creator, right? You're on whatever, you're on Twitch, YouTube, all this other stuff, Instagram, the list goes on. I don't follow this person everywhere. And so it's like, you already kind of have your presence, and like, who has a website now is the question, right? Like, many people will just have their YouTube channel, especially if they're a solo operation. Maybe they'll do a little bit of promotion on Instagram or something. And so like, that's where they live. They live on platforms. They don't have their own place. But we still live in a world where there are a lot of websites, but we're also in a world where potentially we're in transition away from websites. The reason why I mention that is because, like, obviously JavaScript can do more than just websites, but it's primarily kind of websites, right? Like, it can work on the back end and things like that. But given let's just say websites really drop off, the actual websites themselves, are we really going to see people still use JavaScript as much, or are they going to go toward things that are more like server calculation based, which would be something like Python? And I think that you would start seeing people go to Python, because JavaScript, runs in the back, runs on the back end, runs in the front end by default in its vanilla form, things like that. But really, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Mike, really, we got JavaScript running on the back end to make it easier for people who are front-end developers to go into the back end as well, using the same language and similar syntax, and similar but not the same, obviously, methods, and like, to get it to work on the back end. So that's very much a website move. I feel as though if we were to ever transition away from websites, which, like, that might be nonsense, but if we see that transition, because I mean, I just an example. The other day I was curious, and I about like the advanced voice mode or whatever of ChatGPT, and so I toggled that on. I had 10 minutes before I had to meet somebody. They were running 10 minutes late, and I was like, I have to write the show notes tomorrow. I'm just curious. I'm going to see what's going to happen. I didn't look at the screen, short of like turning on the advanced voice mode. I didn't touch anything in the ChatGPT window. I went to the advanced voice mode. I had a conversation about my idea. We had a back and forth, and then it generated me an outline. So, I mean, a website is a highly visual experience. You click in, you buy things, you check on what somebody's doing, like on Facebook and things like that. Like there's a lot of a lot of the experience is visual for sure, right? And then even if someone is visually impaired, we have accessibility controls there. It describes the visuals, right? Largely describes and reads those visuals. Well, I mean, I still have to do a lot of work to the layout. I'm not saying it's perfect, but the point of the matter is, 3 years ago, I would not be able to do what I just did. I had an actual organic conversation with a bot back and forth without looking at a screen, just sitting on the couch, and it did some work for me. So if we think about, like, the future of Star Trek, which is, maybe where we're going, maybe it isn't, The point of the matter is, though, is like Spock traditionally will like go and literally say to the computer, we're on fire. How much fire extinguisher, like a chemical compound do we need? How many fire extinguishers do we need, to make it simple? How many fire extinguishers do we need? And the thing listens to what you say, and then it tells you the answer. What do we do now? Well, we could do the ChatGPT thing, like I said, but that's brand new. So what we do traditionally is we go to Google, we type that problem in. Maybe no one solved that problem, so then we got to look up, okay, how much of a fire does one fire extinguisher, do? And then we have to extrapolate. See the bandwidth has changed? So maybe, we could see websites go away, and maybe not go away entirely, but the point of the matter is that Python may be the thing that's going forward because websites are old now.
Yeah, maybe. I think there is some potential to that. I think it applies to other languages as well. Is like, I think JavaScript. Honestly, I think JavaScript is still going up in terms of overall usage, as far as I understand it. Other languages are just starting to also go up as well, pretty heavily.
For sure. Like, I'm not saying that this is necessarily going to happen.
Yeah. I think it could happen down the line, though, because I do believe in the theory that the current web as it is going to drastically change. Like, you won't have news websites, you won't have all that stuff. It'll be something very different. I don't think we've gotten an understanding of what it's going to be yet. I think so. The people that will, potentially profit a lot. But essentially, I don't know if that's going to lead to more Python usage. That might lead to other stuff. Python in general, what it's really good at is math, as we know. Any sort of really large machine language training sets and training data, like parsing large amounts of strings, essentially, is a really, really good use case for Python. What it's really not good at is like performance. Its performance is probably on par, if not a little bit worse than JavaScript. So like, if you're going to be doing any sort of crazy amount of processing, you're still probably going to have to offload that to something else that's a little bit more performant. Even TypeScript in certain ways with like Bun or Dino will be significantly faster than Python in a lot of different ways. So like, I agree with also the other thing that you said with the reason that we have JavaScript on the back end is because we have a bunch of JavaScript developers that wanted to write backend code. What came out of that, though, was some very sophisticated tooling that made TypeScript on the back end actually a pretty viable option for a lot of different things.
For sure. Like we're generations in now, right?
Correct. Yeah. Like all the tool, like if you need something fast, Dino and Bun can outperform Go and even like perform close to Rust in some cases, like, which is really crazy. So you can do a really, really fast JavaScript server, but then if you need like multi-threading and multiple processes, it becomes a more complicated. But like, regardless, out of all that, what I did want to kind of clarify is that like, it is an interesting point that we're seeing a shift in languages, a pretty significant shift in languages. For my understanding, a new set of workflows that are enabled to developers, which is the AI workflows, right? Like if you look at all of the different agentic frameworks, like I was talking about LangChain, and Llama Index, those I think are going to be the big trend. I think I would really want you to keep an eye on them if you're looking at like, hey, how do I stay up to date? Look at the agentic workflows, because that's where probably the next set of web standards are going to be. For my understanding, is like we're gonna be seeing how these workflows start to input into every single part of our daily life on the web. Like I think stuff like QuickBooks is going to integrate stuff with them. Stuff like all like most websites are going to start integrating stuff with them. Websites are going to start to have MCP servers being built into them so that AI can just talk directly to the website and know all of its APIs. Like there's going to be a lot that happens, and that's where I think Python is going to shine, because there's a lot of developers that are building directly for Python for those instances. Obviously, with JavaScript still on the table, but it seems that Python's the one that's getting all the attention, which is interesting. The next thing here I wanted to kind of quickly, briefly touch on, because there's not much interesting here, is the difference in web frameworks and technologies. Node.js is still very much the number one framework and technology that's being used, 48.7%. React is React is still second by a lot as well, 44.7%. The next highest one is jQuery with 23.4%, right? So we're talking a big jump from 44 to 23. React is still the dominant framework here. Node.js is still the dominant framework for the backend. React is still the dominant framework for the front end. We know that. We can see that. It's not changing. It's probably not changing anytime soon. our predictions before were like, oh, maybe Vue.js, maybe Svelte will, start to eat its lunch. That's not happening. I don't think it's going to happen. I've talked about this before. I think with the bias that AI has towards the massive amount of data that is collected on React, new developers are going to be gravitating towards it because anything that they ask without specifying a framework will be written in Node.js and React, just flat out. So any new code bases that are going to be built out by vibe coders are probably going to be those languages. It's going to become more disparate as it goes. Now, one interesting thing kind of on the same level as what we talked about before with Python is that a new-ish Python framework called Fast API, which is just like a API server framework that, uses Python, similar to Flask, similar to Django, that went up 5 points. So we saw a pretty big jump in Fast API because it's just a newer version of Flask and Django that makes it easier to build these, again, AI workflows that we talked about before. So that's kind of interesting. If you're going to be choosing a framework from scratch right now for building your Python backend, Fast API seems to be the one that people are choosing.
I was going to say too, what's kind of interesting there is we never had AI make any impact on market decisions before.
Yeah, it's making
And
it now.
now it's peaking, but here's a weird thing too is I wonder like what's going to happen in the future. Meaning like obviously things can still go viral and things can still get picked up without AI. Like the old systems of like learning from a friend and like taking courses and things still exists. It's not like the web has been dismantled
Not
by
yet.
AI, not as of yet. But the thing is, it's kind of interesting is if you created a framework today that was objectively the best somehow, and objectively the best, very few cons, many pros, but you had very little learning material out there for the AI to latch onto and talk and like explain. That's a market decision that, like you said, if somebody does some vibe coding, looks up something, and you don't specify, it'll likely latch on to React. And then what?
So another episode we can link is, again, the AI bias episode. I think it's a very big deal. What I will say, though, is I think this would have happened without AI. This would have even happened without AI. I think at a slower pace. But what I'm trying to get at is I think we're maturing as an industry and we've picked our winner. The other frameworks are still there. They're still good. Svelte is still my framework of choice. Honestly, I still like it better in terms of DX than React. The problem is that all of these frameworks, Svelte, Vue, and React, are starting to come together in usability. For instance, React has a compiler now. They created a compiler. That was the thing that set Svelte aside for a long time, right? That's a big performance boost, big simplicity boost for reading compiled code. Like there is no less of a framework that you're bundling with it. Like there's just a lot of benefits to the compiler in my eyes. React put that in, right? Vue has that as well. It's had it for a while too. React has like signals, like it has hooks now, right? Like it's had them for a while. That was a big benefit of something like Vue for a little while when it came out. And it now, for instance, Svelte went to a runes mode, which is very similar to hooks. So like it's kind of getting closer to the new version of React. Like all of these frameworks are kind of converging into one area. They all still have differences for sure, and they also have preferences. And again, I still prefer Svelte today, but it's not that big of a preference. It's not that like it's not enough for me to go like, oh, it's this much better. They're slightly better than each other at different things. And until someone comes out with a framework that's like, or a library that's like 10x better, there's just no reason for anyone to even pick it up right now.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that, again, even without AI, that would have thing. Now, having said that, if you come up with something that's 10x better, it's going to make it harder now with AI to penetrate the market. There's still different ways you could do it. You could have AI generate a bunch of content for you and put it into itself. Like you could do a bunch of things to get AI to recognize you.
I was going to say, is documentation, like especially new documentation, like I mean fresh framework, fresh tool, or it doesn't matter, WordPress plugin, like fresh thing, and you want to become not just a smaller or medium business, like you want to become like a React or something in popularity, like to really seriously question is, do you write your documentation for humans?
Well, the advantage for us right now is that AI is reading stuff that's written for humans better than anything else.
Right, but right now it's written for humans, and the AI is doing it, but is reading it. But obviously, that's not the absolute best way to do it. And the reason why we know that is because you can do little like self-training things with certain paid plans of ChatGPT. You can like self-train model or like do little like custom trained models and things like that based on like I think it's like an LSON, like a JSON D file or whatever the heck format it is, and then you can like do like your own little training thing. You sent it to me on LinkedIn actually, Mike. And then also the idea of GEO, which is basically AI SEO, the very fact that that already exists and is starting to like pick up means, I mean, obviously it's not the absolute best way to do it then.
Yeah, I think there is going to be a more efficient way to provide data to AI rather than like human generated text.
Mhm.
I don't, yeah, I think right now it's not, there isn't, or they're at right now, it doesn't really make that big of a difference anymore. But maybe at some point when we stop generating so much human text, it might be. Again, we might be like talking years away.
But I guess the thing I'm questioning, and I'm talking like a bit philosophically, like even with
Mhm.
the whole like our website's going away thing, it's a bit philosophical. But these questions are on my mind, like when I read, these survey statistics, because like here's a question: is like right now, you go to let's just use HTML as an example. You use it, you want to learn HTML, okay? W3 Schools, pretty good resource for that. I know some people hate it, but I like W3 Schools for specific concepts. You go and you find the page that, what's the HTML tag mean? Like, what's a tag? What's the HTML tag? What's a header? Like, what's the head tag? What's an image tag? What's an ahref? What are these things? You can read it, read all the different options that you can do there. There's little playgrounds to play in, right? That's very human, though. Okay, new framework comes out, HTML 2.0, let's just say HTML 2.0 comes out, something imaginary at this point. HTML 2.0 comes out, it's a whole new thing. Do we write 5, 6, 7, 100 blog posts, each of them covering a concept? Or do we train an AI and have that AI be at our, HTML 2.0 website / documentation? And then you say, it's like, hello, I'll teach you HTML 2.0. What do you want to learn? Do we write those posts anymore?
It's a good point. I don't think so. And I think you kind of nailed that. I think it would be more of a, hey, let's create a data set from this so that
Right.
AI can ingest it and then regurgitate what we need it to regurgitate, whether that be a bunch of examples and then get AI to extrapolate and create more examples that it could feed into itself, right? Like create, like, because I think what's missing for a lot of these frameworks is just a massive amount of code that's generated that React has.
Of
So you
course.
need to generate
There's a
that
bunch of
code.
examples.
Yeah, you need to generate that code somehow manually for the first bit. But I think once you have done it manually, and if the AIs get better, you can kind of get that automated. And then also just good documentation. And then have that be just the basis of your AI. And a lot of places are doing this. Like, I believe there's a Svelte MCP server. There's different MCP servers that allow you to like directly access the documentation from any IDE like Cursor or VS Code, and it'll know exactly what you're talking about, what version of Svelte you're talking about, because you can reference the versions. So
Right.
there's already things that are happening that are similar to this that allow smaller frameworks or smaller libraries to be useful. It's just not on the same level.
I mean, this is going to be off topic. Like maybe we should like say this for another day, but I'm just going to bring this up because I just thought of something. You make a framework and you don't want ChatGPT to like learn your framework for some reason. So you train your own little AI model, however you do it. You train it and then you make that new documentation center. This is going to be the new version of stale documentation unless you're really good at keeping your documentation up.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting. And then ChatGPT would only learn from third parties, assuming people would still write blog posts on them about your framework. And those people learned on your on your AI. I feel like this might start another string of not questions, but problems. Well, questions too, probably questions and problems and everything else. I'm philosophical at this point, but I'm just like, it just came to me and I just thought have it in the record now. It's in the episode, but it's just, I don't know. It's something interesting that I just thought of. Like, it's like, what would you do? It's like, I don't want ChatGPT to be the place where people learn about HTML 2.0. I don't want that. I want, Matt made HTML 2.0. Matt's going to deliver, right? In this hypothetical, like, I'm delivering HTML 2.0 to the people in the way that I want.
Sure. I think that's just a path to failure for that framework. So I think it's irrelevant.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, in some ways that it will become irrelevant. So, or only used by a really small handful of people if you go down that route. I could be wrong. There could be AI purist or something like that, because this is even like not even like an anti-AI person. This is an AI person that doesn't want to use a certain AI, which is crazy. Like, that's a whole other category. That's probably going to happen at some point, but I think it's a very small percentage of people right now.
It's gonna be somehow AI stale documentation. It's gonna be like, holy
weird-ass shit
crap!
like
Like,
that.
what rabbit hole have we created for ourselves in 10 years?
Yeah, holy crap. We don't even know. Okay, moving on here, though. The other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was cloud platforms. Matt actually brought up, like, hey, I just used Docker and it was awesome. And interestingly enough, the biggest jump in experience, or the biggest jump in people like using something, was Docker this year. So Docker is firmly number one. I think it was number one last year as well, honestly, but it's now firmly number one in cloud platforms. And it is used by 71.1% of people. And NPM actually is the next one, which is used at, I think, 56.6% here. So it's a pretty big jump there, even from 1 to 2. So Docker is solidly in the lead. And not only that, it gained 17 points from 2024 to 2025. Again, that's a really big jump. We're talking about the 7-point gain that Python had. Docker had an even bigger gain. And the weird thing is that I think it's the same reason. I think because AI has made it easier for people to learn Docker and set up Docker files and create and spin up Docker, I think that made it more accessible to everyone. And there's a lot of advantages to using Docker versus other things, versus using like standard VMs and stuff like that. So people have just jumped on that train to be able to now use Docker without having to learn it from scratch. That's my guess. I have no idea.
I can tell you how I got into it if you want. I mean, it was because of ChatGPT. So my prompt basically was, I found a huge blind spot, which I'm not going to share right now, but I found a huge blind spot in a WordPress stack that I'm using that's very, very common. It's ACF, Advanced Custom Fields Pro, Elementor Pro, and then WordPress, of course. And I found this huge blind spot, that, or at least what I find a blind spot, a feature that really should be there. And so I was like, I'm kind of curious, like maybe I should code this up. So the very first thing I thought was, I want to spin up a local WordPress. And I've done this like a bunch of times. I was going to say hundreds, probably not hundreds, but I've done this a bunch of times. But I used to do it manually. And a lot of the time it was with XAMPP and things like that. And so I was like, you know what? Like, what's the modern equivalent? Let me talk to, I know there's a lot of like WordPress tooling out there. Let me talk to AI. Also talk to Nat, friend of the show. And I'll just say what the AI recommended. It gave me a bunch of options because I gave it like this big prompt as to what I wanted. I want like a playground, easy to wipe, easy to restart, easy to like turn off, turn back on, like something where I'm able to like, this is a learning environment. I'm not doing this for a client. I can write bad code in here. Who cares? No Git, no nothing. I'm just playing right now. And the very first option it gave me was, I believe this is what Nat gave me on LinkedIn, was local WP, which stands for local WordPress, of course. And that's like a GUI based management thing. There's no terminal, no nothing like that. All that. So that's option one. But sure enough, option number 2, Docker. And it says here it's more advanced, it's flexible, it's scriptable. And it says it's best for developers who want repeatable, scriptable environments. And of course, I thought, well, I know that Docker is useful in more than just WordPress. And since I'm like playing here and I want to learn stuff, and I'm also a sysadmin by trade. I used to be a sysadmin years ago. I was like, I should probably learn a little bit of Docker, because Francesco was on our show a while ago and he was talking about Docker, and I had the whole sysadmin conversation with him, and he said, you're a sysadmin, you're going to pick it up like nothing. And I mean, I've only made one Docker container. I'm not going to claim that I'm some genius. And I'm doing it with WSL, which is the subsystem, Linux subsystem for Windows. So that I'm also using the Windows version of Docker Desktop, because it plugs into that WSL environment. And I like, whatever, did the configuration with ChatGPT's help for sure. And I was like, okay, like, and it's like type in this code to start it, and then go to the local host. And I was like, I didn't really feel like I did anything yet. So what do you mean? But I was like, okay, whatever. I did it, and I was done. And my whole point is like, not only did ChatGPT get me spun up quickly, but I'm very impressed at what Docker's capable of. So maybe there's that AI influence that Mike's mentioning, where that's one of the things where like AI is going to recommend Docker. Of course, it didn't recommend it as the first option for me, but it was there. It was in the top 2. And for that matter, I'm like sincerely impressed at what Docker's capable of doing, and I've only spun up one container. And like I was telling Mike, like I've already been playing with a bit of the network settings and stuff because I like already understand a lot of that, not Docker specific, but I understand a lot of like networking things. And so I feel like, I don't know, like it's very impressive. Like I'm just impressed, like straight up. Usually I'm not impressed by things. Usually it's like, cool, that worked. But I am very impressed. And so I think that's a huge like influence for people, right? Like they're probably impressed as well. They're like, man, this is great. And I could take that Docker container, as far as I understand it, and give it to Mike. I could be like, Mike, I am very stuck on a bug. Here's this container. Please like spin it up in your Docker environment and try to get this damn thing to work. And I'm pretty sure that would work. Again, I'm brand new to it, but
Yeah, not only can you do that, is you could program it all locally and then literally put it on a server and have it accessible by the internet. Like that's the whole thing with Docker, is that you're doing the development on the production version of the app, right? Because like it's the exact same environment. It's an entire VM enclosed in the
I
thing.
see.
So it's a huge advantage. Like Docker was a game changer when it was released. It's become better and better over the years. It's significantly better than it was even 5 years ago when I first learned about it. And yeah, I think that people now have an easier barrier to entry than they did before. And therefore, yeah, it's gaining popularity because it's a no-brainer to use for a lot of different things. Whereas before
Right.
it was a no-brainer to use, but it would require you to ramp up in it quite a bit. And therefore, that was the barrier to entry. Now that barrier to entry is gone pretty much. And you just pick it up, use it, boom. So yeah, it's going to improve. It's going to go up in points. So I don't want to have everything lead back to, oh, it's because of AI. But the reality is AI, I think, is having a massive, drastic shift on our industry in different ways that we're not talking about. And it's going to continue to have that through the years. So we need to start thinking about how that impacts different things. I don't have the answer to that,
Well,
but I
do
think
you
it's
know why you don't have the answer to that? Is because a lot of the data is ephemeral.
Mhm.
A lot of the data shows up on your screen one time and then it gets forgotten. Now, yes, it's saved in people's conversations and things like that, but people aren't going back in their conversations and gathering data on it. A lot of the data is virtually, if not actually, ephemeral, meaning that the data shows up and goes away. And if you don't know what that means, it's like an example, as far as I understand it, is, and I might be wrong, so please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but an example of ephemeral data would be if you do a Google search and the Google search like shows unique results. Like this time, this ad shows up first, and this shows up here, and this shows up like let's say there's 5 websites, and the option like it literally does the order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I come back tomorrow and I type in the same prompt, and then SEO changes and things like that. That original experience that I just had, that SERP, that search engine results page, was ephemeral. It's gone now, and there's no guarantee it's going to generate that same one again, because it might have only one sponsor instead of 2, and it might do 2, 4, 5, 1, 2, or whatever, right? That's the point. And so it's ephemeral. And so with AI, this stuff is largely ephemeral. And so it's hard, unless you're monitoring it, it's very difficult to actually measure the impact sometimes.
Yeah, very, very true. Like, I don't know how we're going to do it. I think it's just going to creep into everything that we're kind of talking about. And that's what's happening right now. Like, every topic that we've talked about has had some sort of twist with AI, which is
It's
crazy.
crazy.
Even if I don't want to talk about AI, it's like it just creeps in for some reason and I can't get out of it. Like, it's part of every conversation, which is annoying as hell because I don't want to talk about AI all the time. But why is it there? And like, on that same topic, what I found kind of really interesting is one of these other stats that they had. How did you learn to code for AI? So this is the question that was asked, right? And then they had a bunch of options. The number one option that was selected, 52.5% of people used AI code gen tools, so like LLMs and ChatGPT and stuff like that. to learn how to code for AI. So almost everyone, just to learn a new topic in general, is using AI to learn that. Over half of people are doing that, which is
Sorry, so
crazy.
can I ask a question about this? So this isn't, to be clear, this is not learn to code
In general, yeah.
with AI helping you. This is, how did you learn to code for
For
AI?
AI. Yes.
Can I have an example of that? Like, what do you mean by that?
So how did you learn to connect to like the OpenAI API? Right? Like how did you learn to use an LLM in your application?
Oh, and then they used AI to help them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they used AI to learn to code for AI. It's just it's a simple feature, but I think this would go. What I'm trying to say is I think that this would apply to pretty much every new feature that people learn. I don't think this would be limited to just the like how did you learn to code for AI? I think this would be anything. Like you're learning something, you're probably going to be using AI in a majority of cases to learn that thing. And people are saying that very clearly here, right? Like, there's still blogs and podcasts are still on here 28.7%. Videos are still 38.7%. So they're still relevant, very relevant. But AI is now over 50% in learning how to code single feature AI stuff, but still interesting.
Interesting, and also, like, you know how like something that seems viral and very loud in the news, when it comes down to a survey, is like very muted, or it's almost like humbled in a way where it's like, oh, this thing is actually like, in 6th place of 10th instead of it being first like everyone thought. This thing is in first, and this thing, like, AI is coming into all of our conversations right now.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, man, like it's one of these things, once again, where it's like, this is kind of like the future that I wanted as a kid, and we're here now, and now I'm scared of it for some reason. Typical human behavior. Like, what is that? Gun up, in a movie, you're like creeping in, like we go down to the planet. We're not just going down to like a planet that we haven't been to without a gun. Like, we're bringing a gun. I'd bring a gun.
Yep.
I'd bring a gun into space. I don't even know if they're useful. I'd bring a gun into space. Like, what's going on out there? Typical human behavior.
Yep. Yeah, we're in a weird world right now, and I have the same kind of feeling. Again, like I talked about, like the last few episodes, where it just keeps going back and forth between me being super excited and existential dread. Like, this is changing things so rapidly for us, and we're not accepting those changes to the point where I don't know. Like, it's weird. We're in a weird spot where it's just being put into every single workflow we have and not really being talked about as a replacement for all those workflows, because it's not really there yet, but it's like kind of getting close to it. Like, for instance, there's another stat. This is, we're talking about AI stuff now. 69% of AI agent users agree AI agents have increased productivity. And an AI agent would be something that, like, goes and searches the web, does something for you, like not just asking an LLM, but the LLM has tools that it can then go and do things for you with, like create an image, do a bunch of stuff, like check the progress on your tasks and give a feedback on progress. Like, there's AI agents that can do a lot of stuff. Review your code. CodeRabbit would be considered an AI agent, right? Like our channel sponsor is an AI agent. So like 69% of users that have used them consider them to have increased productivity, and I am absolutely in that 69%. Absolutely, as it has increased my productivity. When I go to approach a new task now, my first instinct is, how can I do this better or faster with AI?
Yeah. I mean, you were doing that with, something that I don't even, I have to do, but I don't care about, which is our bookkeeping. You were like looking at how to use, and I kind of use AI, not for fun necessarily, although I do, like, look up products and things that I'm, I want a new console or something. Like, I'll have AI help me shop a bit or something. But I would, because I hate bookkeeping, I just never even thought of using AI to do it. But then you're like, yeah, I'm going to cut down all my work. And I'm like, cutting down my bookkeeping sounds pretty nice. You know what? I have this, how like there's like that one take, and we've probably mentioned this before on the show. I'm pretty sure we have, where there's that one take where it's like, hey, like, we can't even imagine the jobs that AI will generate. And as a result, like, that's one of the issues, is like, people are like, it's going to take my job. It's like, yeah, it will, likely, or possibly, right? Whatever, we don't know. But then it's also going to generate jobs we can't even think of. And I actually had this weird thought. I'm just going to say this. I'm getting philosophical today. This is crazy, but this is a real thing. So, you know, the video game Fallout. This is going to sound weird. So the video game Fallout, if you don't know what it is, it's a post-apocalyptic game. Basically, there was a World War III, everything got nuked, whatever, and there's a whole bunch of like crazy conspiracies and this and that and the other thing. And those conspiracies are done by a company called Vault-Tec. Now, I'm not going to get deep into this, but Vault-Tec basically built vaults all over America, possibly in other countries. I don't know, because there's a lot of lore that comes out in this game. Doesn't matter. The point of the matter is, though, this is my point, is Vault-Tec's this big corrupt company. Toss all that in the garbage for a second and just think about the idea of saying, you know what, we're going to build a fallout shelter for every man, woman, and child across enter in country here. America, Canada, doesn't matter. Okay. Well, every single time we go do something like that, a lot of the time people will say like, yo, you know, we don't have like think about the logistics to do that. The amount of materials, the logistics, we don't have time, this and that. Okay. Maybe we don't even need it. But my point is that is a grand project. That is a huge project. Massive. And yeah, it would take a lot of people. It would take a lot of money. It would take a lot of whatever. But as AI takes over our more mundane things or makes things mundane, meaning the computer is just handling it for us, could we take on as humans more grand projects like we want to have a fallout shelter for everybody? Could we take on large projects like that?
Maybe,
like,
but I don't know if
probably.
possibly. I don't know if the thing that's stopping us right now is random paperwork.
I don't think it's no. I don't think it's. I'm not saying paperwork. What I'm saying is it like paperwork is definitely going to be part of it. But think about like the logistical disaster, right? That is like, okay, we need to like bring metal into the Arctic for like for none of it. Like none of it's one of our province/territories. It's friggin' cold there, and it's hard to get things there. We have a logistical challenge here. Well, if we have to have 15 people back at the office pushing papers, I mean, wouldn't it be great to not have those 15 people? Wouldn't it be better to have 2 people pushing papers and then have the rest of those people come out and actually help us like deal with the logistics? The idea, what I'm saying is that are we going to be able to like come up with crazy projects and have a lot of the grunt work no longer be there? Now, this is a very utopian way to think about it, but still think about like right now, like people are saying that coding was seen by some and is likely still seen by some as like an art form in a way, right? In a way.
Sure.
But and you're kind of shaking your head no. But the point of the matter is that you're kind of shaking your head no because I think it's because it's become more of a corporate thing. Do it right, do it fast, go fast and break things. Let's make some money for the investors. That's literally what we're doing, right? That's what we're doing. Imagine an art factory. You know, you didn't have a Picasso factory where it's just pumping out Picassos and like Picasso was like, get that damn, assembly line going. No one was doing that. Like he wasn't doing that. So my point is like, if we get AI to do all this stuff that we don't want to do, are we going to bring joy back to stuff? Are we going to be able to have these huge projects and have like a dream of like, we want to have like 10,000 vaults across the country to protect people from the potential of nuclear war or something? That's obviously a very morbid topic. That's not my point. My point is think about another thing. Like, are we going to bring joy back to coding? Or are people going to start being artsy with their code again because they don't have to worry because the worry about it being super production ready because the AI will just do either actually code up the grunt work stuff, or will it like complement what we did, or will it convert what we did into production ready code? This is all very philosophical. I want to be clear here, but that's an example. Like these huge projects are blocked by realities. And a lot of the realities is grunt work, and it's needed, right?
So I think what I want to say is that the juxtaposition between your statement of like grand projects, like fallout shelters, or in a more realistic sense, like a pyramid, like building the Great Pyramids of Giza.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Like similar grand structure.
Right.
Or whatever. The juxtaposition between that and your topic on like, are we going to be able to be more artistic? Those are two very different things. And you also mentioned like utopia, dystopia. I think that the grand projects is extraordinarily dystopian, because if you're saying that, oh, AI will be able to take care of all the office work for us so we can have more people, we can throw more people at the problem. What that translates to me is that we're now becoming the slaves that are able to like push the bricks up, while AI is the thing that is actually like planning it and doing the grunt work, like doing the paper pushing and sitting at the desk and not having to break their backs, right? Like that's where I see that society going, versus the society of like, hey, we can now just do these things for fun. Like we can just make an application for fun, or we can
Right.
actually have just more people working on music or art, because that's something that AI is just not as creative with, or we don't want to hear AI music because that's just a human thing, right? Like that's a more utopian statement, because like AI is handling all this tough stuff for us, maybe even including the grunt work in terms of like moving the blocks or moving the materials, like using robotics or whatever, because it was able to figure out that part, like mass producing robots that can take metal from here to none of it and build these massive shelters or something. I think that's the utopian version. And the dystopian one is the one that you're saying, where the humans become the people that are doing the physical labor because the AI can't do it. And it's just planning and using the humans in that way.
Well, my idea is that we're the motivation. Is that AI would not have the motivation. We would be the motivation behind stuff. Like right now, you can use AI to do whatever you want within reason. Like you could use it to teach you how to cook. You could also use it to teach you how to code. The difference between those two things is motivation. Like
Sure.
the human or the user in this particular case was motivated to learn to code, or to learn to cook, or to learn to draw, among other things. I mean, like that Gemini Live thing shows like a video of like a phone on a tripod, and that's like, yo, teach me how to like play tennis, and it'll like watch you play tennis and be like, yo, you got to do this different, that different. I have an app called Golf Fix, and it's an AI thing that like scans where I'm moving, and it's like, oh, you hinged to your wrist too much, you moved your knees too much, your head moved too much, your spine moved, and it's local. I mean, it kills my phone very quickly, but it's local.
I agree with that side of things. I think that would be amazing. And I think that is partially where we're heading, is that, in my opinion. I think there is a switch that can be turned on at some point where it leads to the dystopian side, or somewhere in between.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
things couldn't go dystopian. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, of course, like, especially if there's like a bunch of corporations doing something shady or something. If it's literally the Fallout universe, that's a very dystopian
Yeah.
universe.
Exactly. But yeah, no, it's a very interesting conversation. And I think like, even though it is very philosophical, it is relevant to all of what we're talking about, in a way that these shifts in everything that we're seeing seem to be driven by one thing. And that I think will continue to happen over the years, begrudgingly in some cases. One of the stats here that I have is that positive sentiment to AI tools has actually decreased in 2025.
It has decreased. Interesting. Okay.
Decreased. So like people are using AI tools. 84% of respondents are using AI tools this year. So that's increased, right? I think is from 76% last year to 84% this year. So that's a pretty significant increase. But
Yep.
with that came a decrease in how people are favoring the tools. So people see them as being a little bit less favorable. Now, it's still mostly favorable, I want to say. Like very favorable is 22.9%, favorable is 36.8%, and then unfavorable is like 10.8%, and very unfavorable is like 9.6%. So most of people are still seeing a lot of positives. But the more people start using it, and the more these tools kind of get into different areas, you could see the frustration starting to build as well. Just like with anything that comes out, right? Like it's the same thing that happened with React, where like people started using React a lot. Initially, everyone loved it. The more people that start using it, the more people there are to complain about it as well, right? So like you just breathe that in by having more adoption. But regardless, I think we are going to have this iterative up and down approach where, even for myself on a daily basis, again, I'll have this like a really good experience with Cursor, and the next day I go and try to do the exact same thing or something very similar, and it's shit for some reason. And like that inconsistency to me is the thing that kind of pisses me off more than anything. And I have like frustrations with it very consistently, in terms of like, I can't rely on it to do this thing the same way day to day. How am I
Right.
going to rely on it to do this long running task, which is something it hasn't figured out yet anyway. So like there are some very significant roadblocks I think that it needs to go over to become this thing that takes over our life. But it's just interesting. Like I have this weird feeling where like we're on the precipice of it, and it could go very differently in different ways in terms of like, especially like in terms of web development, the development industry in general, but it could be, have longer reaching effects on other industries, obviously. So it's, I don't know. I don't have too much else to talk about in the survey, honestly.
Well, I
Um,
was actually going to bring something up, and this is one
yeah,
of your stats you read in. Not to hijack your thing
no,
here,
no,
but
absolutely go.
you were talking about, what I think you were talking about was distrust,
Hmm.
where it's like people dislike the tool a little bit. People are a bit it kind of feels like, I'm kind of reading into the statistic a bit, but it's kind of like people are a little apprehensive, where it's kind of like, okay, I'll use this thing, but I'm a little apprehensive about it. And I think has to do with trust. And there is a trust statistic in this thing here where there's only 3.1% of people that answer this survey highly trust.
Yep.
And it says here, more developers actively distrust the accuracy. So actively distrust the accuracy of AI tools than trust it. It says more developers actively distrust the accuracy of AI tools, 46%, than trust it, 33%. And only a fraction, 3%, report highly trusting the output. Experienced developers are the most cautious with the lowest highly trust rate at 2.6%, and the highest highly distrust rate at 20%, indicating a widespread need for human verification for those in roles with accountability.
Yep.
And that makes sense because, I mean, if you're the person that, you are the person that's going to press deploy and you deal with the fallout of if the deployment fails, of course you're going to be like, who wrote this? How did they write it? What did you do here? Of course, right? There's going to be a lot of cross examination. Meanwhile, like, if it's just me playing in, like, I literally like made a WordPress playground that is meant to be broken. So of course I'm just like firing off whatever the AI says for the moment, because if it breaks it, I'll just turn it off. Like, it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. So I mean, this makes sense, but like I think this is the trust thing. Like, this shows distrust, and so I mean it is a little annoying to have to read, kind of peer review AI code. And also, not to, I don't want to take the words out of his mouth, but we had a guest. I don't know if the episode will be out by the time you listen to this, but we had a guest and he said something, again, I'm paraphrasing from memory, where he's like, I'm kind of questioning the bandwidth that humans have for peer reviewing code. And it's like, yeah, if
Absolutely.
the AI like gives you like an absolute monster of amount of code, and then it's like, here, peer review, it's like, yeah, but the AI, doesn't get tired. I do. And yeah, you can do AI code reviews, like you said, like episode sponsor Code Rabbit, sure. But like, there's going to be people here with the distrust that are going to want to code review / peer review it themselves, even if something else has vetted it, right?
Agreed. I honestly, that was a really good way to put it. And I personally have experienced these things where I have to go through line by line, literally, to make sure that the AI isn't screwing up. Lately, it's been worse for me because like I've noticed it's screwing up more often than not. It'll write a ton of good code and then it'll just have these outliers that like make me not trust it enough that I have to go through it line by line. And in some cases, honestly, and I think people have reported this before, it's probably slowed me down. I could have probably written some of the features that I wrote that I had AI write faster because of the fact that I do meticulously code review it very, very intently. Probably more than I do other people's code reviews, honestly, because of the amount of trust that I have for it. So it's like I'm very much aligned with this last point here, where we think I'm in the somewhat distrust column, right? So like I'm not in the somewhat trust column. I'm somewhat distrust. Whatever it writes, I have to review it pretty intently. I cannot put it out there. And a lot, like I would say 90% of the time, I'm changing not a significant portion, but like at least something. 90% of the time. Very few times has it actually like done something exactly the way I wanted it to. Now, some of that could be my prompting. I'm pretty lazy with prompting. I have like a cursor rules file that does a lot of the little grunt work for me, but like I'm not a great prompter. So maybe I could take that down from 90 to like 70%. But even then, like you're still, 70% isn't good enough for me to just trust it and let it go. I can't trust it. And I think that's going to take some time. Now we
When
have
you say
ChatGPT.
trust, what do you mean? Like if you trust it, are you just, is that production ready?
Yeah,
Or
that's what I
if it
mean.
makes a small error, are you still trusting it?
Well, it depends on how big the error is, I guess. But yes, I what I'm saying trust is like I can literally send it. So like have it do it, not look it over, and push deploy. That's what I'm saying for trust. That's what I do with like some developers that are on my team, the leads. That's the trust level that I have with them, right? Like I'm comparing it to a person. How trustable I am of a person. Some developers, I don't review their code. They just throw it, right? Now, in some cases, I do review their code depending on what they're building, but a lot of times I don't. Other people might, whatever. But like regardless, I trust them to write good code.
What's interesting about that is if somebody were to give you a bit of code that had a small error, heck, even a major error, I feel like we would still say, "Oh, I trust that person. That was just a mistake." And we
Possibly.
don't treat an AI that way necessarily.
Not yet. And it's the same thing with like self-driving cars. People suck at driving. That's like common knowledge. You can see it on the roads. You're driving everywhere. People suck at driving.
Well, many people are intentionally driving like idiots too, to be
Yes,
fair. Oh, I need
exactly.
to get there faster
Yeah.
than everybody else. It's like, dude, you're literally causing the freaking delays.
Yeah. And AI is statistically better at driving than people. But when AI makes a mistake, we get more pissed off at that than we do at the people. Let's be serious. You can
Fair
see it in the
point.
news, like self-driving Tesla crashes into a thing. We don't have news articles about humans crashing into things. That happens literally nonstop every day. But we have news articles of every time a Tesla crashes into things in self-driving mode. So like we are very hypercritical of these automated systems because we see them as replacing us. There's a distrust level there. It's just, I think that's overall a good thing. I think it's going to make them better, and it's going to just be a better experience for everyone. I think we do have to acknowledge that we are hypercritical of them, like you're saying.
Well, I mean, there was even news stories like that Replit thing. This was from 7 days ago as of recording. Like, there's literally a headline here on PC Mag, a big publication. AI agent goes rogue, deletes company's entire database.
Yep.
And it's like, if I accidentally did that as an employee, I mean, depending on what it broke or whatever, like maybe it like broke Facebook or something, like that's not good. And then I'd get some headlines because of the amount of people trying to use Facebook. But I mean, if I broke a smaller company's thing, they wouldn't be like, Matt Lawrence like did this and that, and here's his chat logs, because the chat logs have, assuming they're real, have leaked or have been sent out, whatever, shared. Yeah. And like that's like highly critical. But you don't take my Teams or my Slack conversation and say like, Matt said it was all good and it was all cool, and then he pressed publish and he locked his computer for the day, and 20 minutes later everything friggin' detonated.
Yeah, and people using that example as like, hey, we shouldn't be using AI to code, are equally as dumb as people that are doing just straight up vibe coding and pushing everything to production.
Like YOLOing it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that both those like groups of people are crazy. Like, why would, like, it's one example, like literally one time it deleted someone's code. Other times, 90% of the time, it's perfectly fine for everything, right? Like, it's just dumb to think that way, where like people are like literally saying that, hey, stop using AI because of that example. I've seen that on X. I've seen that on LinkedIn. I've seen that on like whatever, Blue Sky or whatever. It's a weird correlation, because again, it's one time it's happened.
It's like a bad movie comes out and it's like, stop making movies.
Exactly. Done. Finish it.
No more movies. One bad TV show. One bad episode in a TV show. Over. No more TV shows. Period.
Done.
Sorry, boys. Made a mistake. Show up to the golf tee off. Oh, sorry, boys. Made one bad hit. Going home. Clubs on Facebook Marketplace, baby. We don't do that.
That's the logic, yeah. And it's biased logic, right? Like, they hate AI, so they're using an article to push their point without looking at the grand scheme. And that's, a lot of people do that for a lot of different reasons, right? They'll find the bias in whatever they're looking for to find the bias in, and they'll use that as their argument forever, right? So that's a human thing. It's a very human thing, and it's going to happen no matter what. It's just something to watch out for. If you're looking at like this as your definition of not using AI, then that's probably not the right move if you're listening to this. Whereas if you want to take this as a bullet point and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't just give it access to everything, that's probably a good lesson from this. But continue to use it.
You know what I want to do and now is I want to actually interview someone on this show that hates AI, that is super anti-AI. I want to
Sure.
hear, like, I want, because I'm sure there's a lot of legitimate cases.
I
mean, there's
guarantee you they're
people-
gone from this episode. Like by the time they're listening to this,
Maybe,
must have
maybe
turned it
though,
off.
like we don't know. Like
Maybe,
if you're a person or you know a person that's super anti-AI and would like to have a conversation, I'm not saying guarantee they're going to get on the show, but hit me up, like DM me on something like LinkedIn or something like that, and see, like, just see what's up. Like I'm also on our Instagram as well. For some reason my notifications aren't working too well in that app right now, so I mean I might miss that, but like LinkedIn I usually check quite often. If you hit me up on LinkedIn and you let me, like, you say like, yo, like, I want to be on the show and I hate AI for these reasons or whatever, I might have a bit of a chat with you before, maybe via DM or whatever. But I would love to have that conversation, because I know that there's like a lot of people that, you know, they have legitimate environmental concerns, like burning as much water or using as much water or whatever it is. Like there's a lot of different things, using as much electricity, this and that we do is concerning, right? 100%. But I mean, people were also had the same concern about Bitcoin, and we still have Bitcoin. People also use like cloud storage for their photos and stuff, and yet like that stuff is on data centers that are burning power too. So like it's a mess. Like there's a legitimate, 100% legitimate environmental concerns with AI as well as other tech.
Absolutely.
So, and I'm sure there's a bunch of like equally as legitimate other concerns with AI as well that I can't think of off the top of my head. Too busy thinking of philosophical utopians societies.
Or dystopian. I posted a post on Blue Sky because I think Blue Sky has a good amount of people that are anti-AI, honestly.
Okay.
Where I've asked people if they're not using AI in any way to help them to code, we'd love to chat with them on the HTML Things podcast. So again, if you're listening to this, definitely reach out. If you're not, maybe share it around and see if someone else is not using AI around your group, right? Like, and let's get someone on the podcast, because I would love to have that conversation, and I would love to hear their opinions and hear how they're struggling or not struggling. Maybe they're having a great time, right? Like maybe they're making the right decision. We don't know what's going to happen. And then I would also love to follow up with them in like 5 years and see where they're at, because they could be right, we could be right. Would love to know.
Well, how many people were anti-smartphone?
Tons. I was anti-smartphone for the first little like year or something like that. I gave in pretty quickly, but
then, like, I mean, there's many people that are anti-smartphone now to varying degrees, because, like, I mean, to a degree, it is kind of making us sick. Like, I will notice, like, I
Yes.
start getting a headache because I'll be like, oh my God, like, I'm just constantly stimulated. Like, this is crazy. Like, I can't even sit there and wait for a video game or to load, or a movie to start, or like, you know, for it to get past the credits. It's like I'm on my damn phone. It's like, why do I keep checking these damn apps? Like, it's crazy. Like, but I'm still not anti-smartphone. I'm certainly anti using it till you're sick, like I'm kind of doing, but
yeah, it's
But
the
I mean,
two-screen
but-
generation. Yeah.
it's but well, that's something that's crazy. Is like I'm on TV. Like sometimes I'll turn on TV and turn it to something I don't care about so I can go on TikTok. It's like, why wouldn't I just go on TikTok then?
Yeah, nuts.
But the point is that like AI may invade us the same way, where it'll be like, well, yeah, I got an AI talking to me on my TV, and then my watch talks to me, and then my computer keeps chatting away, and it's like, oh, okay, maybe that's our future. Who knows?
I think that's it.
Time to run the old conclusion.
Runner up.
You're gonna have to entertain the people because I closed my window like a fool.
I can try to do that. They're going to see a very blurry bunny on the screen. So if you're watching this episode, I'm not even sure we're going to post it on YouTube. Maybe I'll post I have a new bunny. I'm pointing at it right now. A new bunny. Yeah. Last week we got it. Princess Leia. Big white bunny. Has slightly red eyes. Pretty good.
Do bunnies like know their name?
Not really. You can train them to know their name, but you have to actually like do some pretty good training. They don't just pick it up.
It's probably like they're not understanding the phonetics; they're understanding the
Yeah.
acoustics, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
I'm getting philosophical today. Even that felt philosophical. Feel weird right now. This is a technical podcast. This is not a philosophical podcast. It's this beard. I keep stroking it and being like, how does the world work? Why is the sky blue? Are humans real? But one thing that is real is our Patreons. If you want to support episodes like this, you can go check out Patreon. That's patreon.com/HTML, all the things. Check out the tiers, give that a go, and many thanks to our $3 tier patrons. Tim from the Web Hacker on thewebhacker.com, Jason from Geek Life Radio via geekliferadio.com, Garrett Segal, Level Up Financial Planning via www.levelupfinancialplanning.com, Magnus from YesWeb via yesweb.se, Syntaxify from the HTML All the Things Discord server, and Stacy Mosteler from the website swoonworthydesigns.com. And remember, this episode was powered by Code Rabbit. You can go check out the link in the show description and in the show notes on htmlallthethings.com to let them know that we sent you. It is not an affiliate link. It just lets them know we sent you. You can click on that, or you can just go to coderabbit.ai, cut your code review time and bugs in half instantly. 14-day free trial, no credit card needed. 2-click sign up with a GitHub or GitLab account. Get that free trial, get some AI code reviews in your life. And remember that you can also save 20%, up to 20%, excuse me, on Scrimba using their interactive media player code editor. You can go ahead and take a bunch of courses, learn about full stack development, learn about some CSS, some HTML, some JavaScript, some other things. Go check that out via our link, scrimba.com/links/HTML, all the things. And is that right? I just did that. I just winged that and I started to panic immediately. Yeah, it is. Okay, I'm just winging this thing. It's crazy. Yeah. Philosophical. I'm going to stroke the beard one time, going to charge up. And also, many thanks to not to our $3 tier patrons, to Michael Araka. See, I'm winging it. Now I'm starting to think about it. Our brains are stupid. AI, do this for me, please. We'd also give a shout out to Michael Araka, a contributing author on HTMLallthethings.com. Michael is the author of Self-Taught the X Generation blog at selftaughttxg.com. Feel free to leave a comment or review on the platform you are listening to this on, and this outro will sign us off.
You've been listening to HTML All the Things podcast. Web development, web design, and small business. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. And we hope you appreciate that we talk to you like human beings. And we hope you had some fun. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit us up on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon at HTML All the Things. And on Twitter at HTML Everything. Until next time, this is HTML All the Things, signing off.